Yes.
Ready, Coco? Can I make a motion?
All set.
Okay. Everybody have a chance to read the minutes dated June 21st, 2023?
Yes.
Any corrections or additions? If not, I make a motion to accept the minutes written June 21st, 2023. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Jack?
All right, so since our last quarterly meeting, some of the updates. Membership updates, we have 2 new prospects in the works right now. We have applications out. One is a RN by education and trade, and the other one is interested in the medical field for the future. So they're good prospects that we're working on. To that, we also had 2 people go out on medical leave that I don't think will be returning. They have medical situations that have prevented them from continuing, but we are hoping that things will change for them and they come back. But we might be gaining 2 and we might be losing 2. So we're about 36 strong right now in membership. So we're doing well. One of the big things, in case you hear a little bit of conversation about, is East Long Island Hospital, Stony Brook at ELI, took the initiative to structurally change the ramps that our ambulances go to and load to the ER. And I'm not overly up on it. I don't want to be overly up on it. They did a lot of work, $1 million kind of situation, and it doesn't work. So we've put enough stress, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, the North Fork and us have put enough stress on the hospital to fix it. So that's a work in progress. So if you hear any any conversations about it, it sounds like the ears that needed to be reached have been heard, have heard our issue, and it's getting resolved.
Why didn't they go to you guys in the first place and say, how can we fix they're the ones that use it?
Not my corporation. I can't answer that.
That's like, we took 2 areas that we could back trucks into and reduce it to 1.
So
And
now
change
it's
the
gonna be
height of it so our trucks don't reach where we can't open the doors when we back in. So it's getting fixed. So in case you hear about it, you can tell people, don't stress, it's getting fixed
Yikes.
very quickly.
So what do you have to do in the meantime? Bring people around the back?
Yeah, so we're going in the civilian or the general entrance way, which is slightly problematic because we have to wheel you through where everybody sits. Logistically, it's tight to turn. If we're doing advanced care on somebody with a lot of equipment, it's a mess. So it's not easy, but
Stop by the gift shop on your way to the emergency.
But if you do hear anybody chattering or complaining about it, it's a work in progress. The hospital has identified it as a thing that needs to be immediately fixed. So that's a good thing.
And the question is, how did it get that far?
Yeah.
Because if that's the question, I don't.
Designed it.
I know.
And why did they change it in the first place?
Yeah.
$1 million questions.
They had extra money.
No pun intended.
Yeah, I mean, even 2 bays was not enough on some summer days.
Right, and now we have 1.
Right.
All right, so the next thing I have that was very constructive, for the past several years, we've been wanting as an agency to meet with the fire department and just kind of go over things and see how we can do things better with them. And we had a very productive meeting. They have a great set of chiefs in office right now. We have a great set of officers. We had a very productive, what was going to be a quick get together. It was a several-hour meeting. So the good outcome out of that is that we're working on a couple things. One is shared services. We pay for an app to page out the ambulance. The fire department has a need for that. Apparently, not getting into the politics of the commission, that's not something the commission has been interested in doing. So we offered to do that with our system for the fire department. So we've been, over the past couple of weeks, making that work. The fire chiefs and the ambulance chiefs are getting each other's calls, and we're going to see how we want to roll that out to the membership. So the bigger picture for that, the benefit for the ambulance is that when we're needed at a working structure fire, We have dispatch policy that says we're supposed to be called out to those scenes, but we get lost in the heat of the moment, if you will, or everybody's busy. The fire chiefs are busy organizing a fire attack. The dispatchers are overwhelmed with calls, and we usually get forgotten about. And then somebody says, "Where's the ambulance?" So we'll be automatically paged with them through this app to avoid the missed calls. Another big area that we've addressed, that we've had shared concerns about, is the use of the fireboat. So the fireboat can go out on any type of marine incident, firematic or rescue. But really, when you think about it, it's probably best staffed with an EMT on board for any operation. They're fully in agreement with that. This new chain of command, it's just a smart thing to do. So in the future, anytime the fireboat gets dispatched on any operation, there'll be an EMT on board that we will supply to go out with them, to protect their own men and women. And if it's a medical operation, we'll decide collectively if it should be more balanced with 2 or 3 ambulance people and 2 firemen as opposed to 6 firemen, or what have you. But we'll share in those calls. We'll have some policy dictating how we get to them and make it all work. Incidentally, there was a boat fire in Noyak as we had just talked about this.
I saw that.
Yeah, and although our membership didn't know what to do, the chiefs all knew what was going on. The ambulance got paged. We went down to Bridge Street. We met them at the yacht club, and we staffed an EMT as they went out. Like, it's the way we want it to work in the future. So it's all good stuff. A little bit of change, change comes not so easy sometimes, but it's all for the good. Some of the other applications that we talked about, when they go to firematic training up in Yaphank, they're really supposed to bring a support ambulance for themselves while they're getting, they're doing hands-on training. And that's a lack that they haven't had. We've been more than willing to do it, but we just couldn't get it together, the 2 agencies. The new administration will make that happen. We'll know about it. We'll provide an ambulance and staff to go with them to Yaphank for training. And twofold. One is it protects them for training. The second part is ambulance people will be exposed to what those fire operations are, the hazards and stuff that they might not normally think about. So we'll get the training, we'll get a training component out of it as well. And we'll all know how to work better if something really happens here. So it's all good, but it's some stuff that's going to be worked on. What else am I missing with that? Oh, mutual aid calls. So if the fire department mutual aids goes to an outside jurisdiction to assist them, they go to Sag Harbor, they go to Greenport, they go to Orient. All those other agencies have their own self-sufficiency, having their own ambulance go. So we will supply that support staff. We'll send an ambulance wherever they go on a call for the future. So these are things we've been talking about for 10 years that just never got finalized. Good bunch of people right now that want to get things done. So I see it happening. So over the next month or so, I'll polish up some of these issues. Another one that we had, just to give you another good example, is carbon monoxide alarms. And we are no way looking to go on extra calls that we don't need. We have plenty of calls ourselves. But timing with these carbon monoxide incidents that are carbon monoxide alarms that are occupied. So we get, let's say the Chequit, for instance, because that was a call we had. We had 6 patients there, which was from an automatic alarm originating. And there's no need for the downtime for an ambulance to get there when it's really an ambulatory case ultimately anyway.
Yeah.
So we're going to work on those. Probably what we'll do is we'll have the ambulance chief screen the alarms because the fire department gets a fair amount of false or non-emergent type alarms. And we're not really looking to go out on those. So we'll kind of figure out some ways to do it. Mark is going to be listening up on calls. And if it sounds like something we should go on or at least stand by, we'll at least get the ball rolling. All right. So that's all good with that. Just in case you see or hear, so we have 2 ambulances that got banged up from the summer, just wear and tear, accidents on calls. We typically save that work for the fall when calls are now slower, because the timeframe of July and August is just not the time to have an ambulance down to get it repainted or something minor. So we're taking care of that right now. We have one down right now. We're going
October 1st.
October 1st, which will be down for,
It's a Monday to Friday pickup on Friday.
completely incidental. We had an accident with the new renovation at ELI, so we sideswiped the new structure. So we have to get that cleaned up. So we'll be doing that with the ambulances in the next month or two. Recruitment and retention. So Mark can talk about the cricket match, but we did put the foundation sponsors the cricket match now. It is a fundraising activity for the foundation, and the ambulance supplies a standby crew for the day and helps with the setup and takedown of the incident. So I don't know if you want to talk about it now or after.
No, we'll get it afterwards.
Okay. Other things we did, we participated in the Trucks and Trades Fair that was last weekend. We had an ambulance and crew on display that was designated to stay there as show and tell or whatever it was for the fair. He said they had good participation with the kids there. And we did the fireworks standby back in second week in July, second Saturday in July for the community event. That's all I had on recruitment and retention and outreach. Last couple things, policy manual. So we had a state inspection a few months ago, and as any of those things do, it caused me to look at all our policies and operational procedures and guidelines. And, agencies nowadays have policies and procedures for everything. So it caused me to look at some of them dated back to the inception of when we turned over from the Red Cross to the town, which was in 2012. And the town board passed the policies in 13. So it's 10 years old, some of it. So it needed a little polish up. I'm working on that. When I get that ultimately done, I'll make that presentation to the board for approval. One of the things that I would, pose as a question is looking at the role of this committee and seeing how that works now, what our function is. I think it just needs to be readdressed or freshened up. I'm not sure the original design or the language of the original one in 12 is what we do. And then I saw some other generations of or interpretations of language that I'm not sure is really policy. So I just think we should come up with what it is so we can get everything fresh and to date.
Can you email that part? Just
Yeah,
that
sure.
part to me.
Yeah. There's here's a for instance, there's a document that says that one of the roles here is to mediate employee issues and stuff like that. And I'm not sure that ever was the design of this committee. And if it is, that's fine, but that's not how it's working now. So it just needs to be cleaned up. Just this way we know what we're supposed to do, what we're charged with, and I just think it's good to clean it up.
Definitely.
And one thought, Jack, a board is different than a committee.
Correct.
You're saying committee, but it says up there board.
Yep, and
Well,
the
which is-
language of that has changed over time too. So this was originally, I believe by design, was a committee to transition the Red Cross into the town. And then through people interpreting it or typing notes or whatever, it became a board. So I'm not really sure. We should just clean it up. Whatever it is. But that's a good point. That's another good point my understanding was the design of this committee was to transition us from the Red Cross to the town and then to advisory committee, the town board on certain issues that needed, addressing or stuff like that. Some of the language I've seen lately is that this board actually has the ability to dictate policy and rules and employee thing. And I'm not sure that ever was.
No, I think we're just a committee.
Yeah.
Officially, right?
Yeah, we have to pull the resolution.
Okay.
Clerk's office.
So I think while we're doing the policies and stuff, it's just a good time to make it all correct.
Is this a good time to ask how the inspection went with the state?
So the state inspection went well. We had one little kind of hiccup, which has no impact on us. As I'm sure, I think I spoke to you about, they have to have, and they come here, there is going to be an issue.
Going to do something.
You know, so a lot of it was, you know, like we had a couple 4x4s that didn't have dates. So the question became, were they expired or are they non-expiring? It's like, okay, so we'll throw them out and buy new. You know, it's like that. And then we had an issue with our advanced life support because we really don't have anybody except Stony Brook right now. And that caused for some concern on why we had stuff that we weren't using, but that's not necessarily true because we allow the medics in our ambulance. So we worked through that. You know, there was no punitive thing or anything to that, it's just language. And, you know, like I said, they came here, I believe we had a meeting since then. This is that right after us, the same day they went to Orient and they took the whole agency out of service. They weren't allowed to go on ambulance calls because one of their trucks' air conditioning didn't meet the level of cool that they require. So that's, I don't want to say trivial, but that's how.
Yeah, and so that's, you know.
That's what you
know
do.
that it can be, you can just blow up in your face even if you think you've got everything all set.
Yep. But all our paperwork and all our personnel, you know, they looked at medical records, they looked at personnel files, they looked at policy, all that was great. So I guess it went well, except they have the two inspectors, one was great. The other one came from, he doesn't even live in New York. He lives in Pennsylvania and he's hired by New York State. He came down and he was a real stickler, just looking for trivial nonsense.
Yeah.
They have to find something.
No, and I got that. And you know, you got to be able to swallow that a little bit. Like the 4x4s, I'm like, we threw out a truckload of stuff that was not even bad.
Right.
It's given up to the senior center.
You can't. You can't give expired stuff these days. You know, it is what it is. So we're past all that. We won't see them. We're not subjected to a physical inspection for 2 years once you have one, unless there's an issue. So
Are they the same, is that the same group that
No.
monitors the narcotics?
well, so the problem, all those people retired. They all made
Right.
overwhelming money during the COVID crisis, and they all, you know, did the Javits Center and they ran the pods and all that. They all retired. So all our, let's say, friends at those levels have been replaced. So we had the new level. So we're trying to, you know, one of my things will be I'll try to establish some friendships for the future.
Invite them over for dinner.
You know what? It goes a long way. When you include them, you know, it's not even about the dinner, it's including them. And then they feel like they're important, and it's been very good for us in the past, so.
But we're okay with the narcotics side. That's-
I'll ask Mark for update on the renovation, because I'm not familiar with that. I know that's something he has. And the only thing I saw in the minutes that was outstanding was the CEVO, the emergency vehicle operations, the driver training, if you will. We were looking to do that the late part of the summer. It didn't work out with timing, and then we got too busy fall volume wise, and we decided to push that to this fall. One of the things is we're going to do hands-on training, which will probably utilize the Wade's Beach parking lot, and it was not the timing to utilize the parking lot to do that. So, you know, this winter when nobody's around, we'll do that.
They're gonna like wet it down, go.
No, none of that.
And put on the
There's a
brakes
lot
and
of
spin
backing
around.
and stuff like that, you know, and judging the width of the vehicles, which we've identified as something we need to look at. So that's all I have, unless anyone has any questions on anything.
I think so. Yeah. Mark?
The renovation is still getting people to come, and it's difficult without a GC. They're hard pressed to work with somebody that's not a GC, but we don't want to add 15% to the project, so we're trying to do it on our own. The garage doors are the big one. We have to get those measured out and priced out, and then once that's done, we can get Marcelo involved to move the piers in the front to narrow those. We can get all that done without disturbing anything until the doors come. We can't take the doors off until the doors come. So we're going from 3 doors to 2 doors. Matt Sherman did the drawings for us, we got a building permit on it. So, and Matt also did the engineering.
So one door is gonna be double and then
The other one's
like
like
2/3, 1/3?
Right.
Okay.
And the only reason we need anything in between the doors, because structurally, we're gonna put a piece of steel or a parallel up there, is for the doors, for the rails. That's the only reason we need a petition. Right now, the petitions are about 16 inches wide, which gives us 2 inches, 3 inches on each side of the mirror. So we're just gonna put a petition in as narrow as possible to give us 6 or 8 or 12 inches on each side. So some of the little hiccups that Jack was talking about is backing in or pulling out. So, that's all that. The cricket match went well. Keith is very generous with us. They provide the alcohol that people purchase, and then he gives us a cut of that. There's no merchandise, so we don't do that. But then they also, these people pay, I think it's $150 entry fee per person. So that money comes to us. And I'm still have to sit with Keith just to iron out how much comes to us and how much he keeps. So that's always been a good fundraiser. We keep 2, sometimes 3 rigs down there because a lot of us are down there. And just like the show and tell here with the trucks and at the fireworks, the ambulance that's there stays there. And then we have another ambulance get paged out. So the resource, which is what we call our ambulance, stays on site with the people that are there. We keep a crew with that ambulance. If something happens, which has happened in the past at the cricket match, having 2 rigs or 3 rigs there is helpful because one rig just peels out and the other rigs are there. So, and that's what we did with the show and tell as well. We had one there that was gonna stay there. And there were a lot of people that came and went on the squad, so we bring the ambulance in several cars. Several of our cars are trucks, personal vehicles, so they can branch, they can, bump out and still keep a crew, just in case somebody, Jernick had a truck there that had to be 75, 80 feet long and 12. So if somebody fell out of that, it would be good to have an ambulance there as well. Because they had a police boat, I think the police boat was there. So,
Hey, police, the fire boats, do we have one in Deering and is there another one?
Just one.
Just the one in Deering Harbor?
and the mutual aid with the fire department is working very well. Anytime it comes out on our app, I'll go to the scene without my lights and sirens and everything else on, just to see what it's like, compare the app that they have that we gave them that they're not familiar with. They also found out on this last one we went on, I got there and the 2 chiefs were there and I said, look, if I hit this button and you look at the app, you'll see I'm coming. Or you'll see I'm not coming. Or you'll see Anne Marie's coming. So we don't have to actually communicate, they can just look on the app, which is what we do on ambulance calls. You can see, you sign on, we had a call a while ago, 3 or 4 people signed on, they were available, 2 people said they were unavailable. So there's not a lot of clutter on the radio, and that's Jack that has done that, so. And this coordination with the fire department is taking, Jack just kind of breezed up, it's a lot of time, he spent a lot of time. And they have 3 new chiefs, we have a good group of chiefs and assistant chiefs now. We're all on the same page, there's no arguing, we got together, part of that meeting was, what do we do if this happens, how do you handle this? Should we get paged out for this? And they've seen me enough now going on the calls, and we went on that fireball call, that in their head, they don't want to bother us, but it's not a bother. We go to calls and go home sometimes because they don't want to go, or there's too many of us. So they don't know how we operate, and they're just they're seeing how we operate now. So it's very interesting to work with them, because they don't want to bother us. And it's not, and the latest Cheekwood thing, we were there. And it was actually smoke coming out of the building. So we stayed for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and we went home. Nobody needed to go to the hospital. But I think it's more advantageous to be there just in case something critical happens.
Right.
Then it's 10 minutes for us to get there. So, and Jack has done our stats as far as how long it takes to get a provider there and how long it takes to get an ambulance there. And we're eons ahead of anybody in Nassau and Suffolk County, even the city. So the medics we work with are shocked that sometimes we beat them. So, and that's worked out real well. The medics have worked out real well.
Can we still have them? Stony Brook medics?
Yeah, so that's the last thing I wanted to end with. If you, are you done?
No,
So my recommendation to this board is to support my budget proposal to the town. I don't know where it's at. I just got an email not too long ago that the town board is doing budget talks. The supervisor, I submitted the ambulance proposed budget to the supervisor. The supervisor was in agreement that we would like to have 24/7 coverage of Stony Brook for the future. That obviously that costs money. And if that became not available because of money, I would hope to have the opportunity to readdress the board, which I know I will. But my recommendation to all of you here is to support 24/7 coverage. We've brought EMS to another level that I didn't even know that we could. The Stony Brook medic does, besides gives us our advanced life support coverage, they receive in-house training more. If we were to hire paramedics, they would every 3 years get recertified. Stony Brook keeps them constantly training. They go in once a week. Part of their job is in-house and they're doing training. You know, they have, I don't have a number for you. I'll do it for the next meeting, but we have a fair amount of calls that we go on now, chest pain, something serious, and the medic can clear the person at the house and there's no need to transport. We've never had that ability to do that. That's huge. It's saving our resources. It's saving people time going to a hospital when it's really not necessary. It's helping an overburdened ER on a Friday night with patients that we're clearing here a lot. So that's another big part. And besides the ALS stuff that we're allowed to have, Stony Brook kind of operates their own system within their system. And they have different doctors than the county doctors, which have expanded their equipment and medication base, like ketamine and stuff like that. Like they actually have the ability to paralyze somebody here. So that is all with this Stony Brook medic. And, you know, we just had a call a couple minutes ago. I was preparing for this meeting. We get the call, the medic turns out, the medic's on scene in about a minute and a half. The ambulance is 4 minutes out. Like, it doesn't get much better than that. And I don't know if you could put a price on that. You know, like I spoke to the supervisor, and I don't think I really needed to sell it to him, that, you know, whether we use it in the winter, like the concept would be like if we kind of weaned off the night shift for the winter because it's slow, that could be the one time that we have a viable patient. It could be you or I, and we save. And what's the price for that? You know, how do you put a number to that? And I think these numbers, no secret with it, it's going to cost us $431,000 to have a paramedic here 24/7, which includes equipment, which includes ferriage, which, as we all know, costs money, and their training and upkeep, benefits, that whole package. I don't know if we could recreate that. You know, there are ways to do it cheaper, but I don't know that it's better to be cheaper. And I don't know if this is the area to worry about being cheap.
Right.
I don't know, it's just me. We could hire per diem workers. We could hire you to go to paramedic school. You know, you're not going to be getting continually trained at Stony Brook. You know, I don't know all the credentials. We have a couple of the guys that work the night shift. They're flight medics. They usually are the guy in the helicopter. They're their cream of the crop.
Right.
The one girl, Lisa, who works here predominantly 2 days a week, she works in the mobile stroke unit. She's in the mobile CAT scan unit of Stony Brook doing stroke patients in the field before they get to, there's a lot here. They bring a lot. So
What's the coverage right now? I'm sorry.
right until the end of the year, it's 24/7.
Okay.
What happened was we paid for 6 months of night coverage. We were kind of feeling it out, see how it went. Plus Stony Brook, to give you into the business end of it, will not match the money or split it with us. They want us to pay full coverage for nighttime because they don't see, the corporate part of Stony Brook doesn't see the need. So they want us to pay for it all.
Right.
And that all went up from the original 117,500 It went up 20 or 30% because they had to hire all these people back that left for better jobs. So they passed that along to us. But, you know, I can't tell you how great the night program has been. And yes, there are many days and nights that go by that they don't do a call, but it could be you or I tonight.
Right.
And we've got that right now. So I don't know that it's smart business for the public sector to not have that coverage, honestly. So I just look for your support if it gets to be needed.
Absolutely.
We did go over it briefly today in our budget meeting, and so you are going to be asked to come in. And if you could bring some statistics, because the question that was asked was, we went last year and half of this year without the 24/7 coverage. Why can't we continue to do that?
Yep.
So
Yep, they're great arguments.
it wasn't universal, and everybody else was like, what's the price of a life? Your argument just now, but
Yeah, that's honestly, I mean, I'm at a point in my career where I don't think I have to, I'm telling you exactly how I feel. I've been doing this for a long time. And at first I was like thinking, we really don't need the night coverage. You know, they're going to sit there night after night after night. But God forbid it was your child or your family member that had a critical incident. These medics are going to be the difference between them making it.
And you're not paying them for labor, you're paying them for their brains to be available.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, one of the medics has a great saying. You're not paying for me you're not paying for me for what I do. You're paying for me for what I can do.
Right, and for what he.
And I thought that was a little like union-y, but now that I think about it, it is true.
True, you're paying for
You know?
your knowledge.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I have no problem making those arguments. I would love the opportunity to make those arguments because I was trying to, be very conservative with the money because it's a lot of money. But we've known this for many years that this was a stepping into this, and we're pretty much here, and it's where we're at. And it all comes down to, it's hard to dictate, do we have the coverage during the day in the summer when everybody's here and they need, or I don't know, it can make the same argument that could happen at any time. You could go out, you could leave today at 7:00 from church to go home and have a critical incident and we didn't pay for the medic, and it's going to be a different outcome.
It's the reason you buy insurance for your car. If you never had an accident for 35 years, you gotta have the insurance.
Yep.
And
So-
when does the budget get approved? Like,
it doesn't get the final budget isn't until November, I think the day after the election. But we're going through the review process right now. So we looked at the A fund today, and then the other funds will be tomorrow, and then starting next Friday and the following week into the first week of October, that's when we're gonna have department heads come in. Advocate, discuss, et cetera.
so who would it be approving it? The old
Yes,
board or the new board?
yes, the old.
The old board, okay, gotcha.
And the other thing is, now that you know what it is with 24/7, if you cut it back, is there an issue of community standard of treatment and malpractice? That.
Yeah, that would be a legal question above my scope,
Well,
but I definitely hear
that's what
you.
I'm saying,
Yeah.
yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I guess as long as it's known, there is no coverage at night or something. We're not,
I'm
We're not purporting to be something we're not.
Right,
yeah.
but if I had a lawyer, he would figure it out. It would not be too late, but he would ask, what you used to have, what happened,
Right, well, it comes down, it's a money thing. I don't think anybody can make the argument that we don't need it or it's unwarranted. It's just, is it something that we want to expend the funds for? And it'll come down to a vote, I guess, of the town board that'll make that decision. But I think I'm asking for this board to support it, and if we have to, seek other people to support that, to get our public, town leaders to support it, that's what I'm asking for. I think it's that important. I wouldn't be bringing it up if I.
Going to meet the town
If-
board meeting?
I don't know. Let's see what happens with the preliminary review of it. And if there is an issue with it not looking like it's going to pass, I will let Peter know.
Yeah.
that, because in my opinion, that this is, that's what they pay me to do here, is to oversee this. And I think this is very important.
It's a shame Richard's not here.
And I know the supervisor has the same feeling. We're just talking about the budget and possibly the discussion of the 24/7 paramedic.
Amber, fill you in.
She said that, yeah. So I've just,
Jack and I had the discussion that this town board is the first that really went along with all the requests for the EMS over the last few years. I kind of thought that, well, it's kind of a given if, it's not like you're asking for anything special. And today there were some questions. So I gave him your answer, we saved one life, it's more than worth it, but, we had.
I knew you had a tape recorder in here.
DJ had some.
No,
Jim had some questions, I said, we'll bring Jack in. And BJ's questions were specific to, let's see what the calls were, the number of calls and what they responded to and how severe they were. And Jim wanted to know about, well, can we train our own people to be certified? And I tried to explain to him that, yeah, we can train them, but they still have to get full-time jobs. And they would do this on their own time, over and above, their job. And for us to give them the job, we'd have to pay, he goes, well, we can pay him 120. They can't afford to live here for that. So, so you need to come in and.
No, I was just, my point for this board was, if that doesn't prove fruitful, me going in, that I would ask for their support to publicly get this approved, because I feel
The chief
that.
also said he would come in and explain to him that he's been in on some calls that without the certified paramedic, we wouldn't went as smooth as it did.
Yep. So that's all I had.
If you had, how many homes or taxpayers are there on the island, do you know?
2,800,
No, there.
Yeah, I would say 2,900.
2,800.
So what was your 400, let's figure it out how much it is a person. then.
Well,
It's not that much.
24/7 is 431.
431,000?
Yep.
Per household?
No, for the,
Oh, 430.
431,000 is the
Be
cost.
$155.
$155, that's the number I was asking
Yeah, it's
for.
a $190,000 increase.
Oh, not even then,
Yeah, so it's like $67 per household,
a year.
It's pretty cheap insurance.
average.
Peter, I think the reality is, this is kind of an eye opener, that this is where we're going.
Yeah.
Not just with the EMS, also with potentially the fire department and any volunteer services on the island.
Yeah.
So I think, Jack and I had this discussion, we said, can we cut it back? Yeah, but I said, no, let's go for the 24/7. Let's, show the public that this is where we're going.
Yeah, well, Jack, you've been saying this for 12 years, 15 years.
Minimum.
It's gonna come, it's
Yeah,
gonna
this is
come.
no shock, it's just we're here.
Right.
And if it's a shock, it's for people that it's fallen on deaf ears, because it's just like Jerry brings up the fire department. If you look at the trend of things, many fire departments on Long Island are paying drivers and stuff now to drive the fire truck. That's where they're headed. I'm not saying yet,
Yeah.
but we're here now where they're gonna be. It's just the trend of volunteering. And there's I brought this up at the last meeting, we have employees that are no longer willing to allow their, employers that are allowed to, letting their employees loose from work time because they can't afford it work-wise or whatever. So, that puts a strain on the system. So the volunteer system is stressed. We know this is nothing new. This is global. We probably have it better off than most in Long Island, I'll say. For volunteering, we still have, we have a good amount of retired people, but they're limited too, and they're getting older, they're getting sick, they're going out, they can't lift, they get hurt. We have new people coming in, but new people that we train will look for occupations. We had an EMT just recently that, I'll keep nameless, that's worked with us for, 10 years probably. That person got a job as an EMT. Why would I do this for free? I can make $42,000 doing this, or $44,000. I get it. They're trying to survive, trying to make the mortgage payment. So the system is stressed. We're fortunate to hold on to the structure right now, but we have to keep progressing towards the coverage that, why would we not want to have that level of coverage here? They truly are. If it was over the top and extra, not really, I'm telling you, they go out on every call. When we did the paramedic program for the daytime, they were, believe it or not, we have more of our calls are daytime than nighttime statistically. And before we actually instituted the night paramedic, the paramedic during the day was on 67% of the calls by volume. And at nighttime, now they're on 100, because obviously they're here all the time. Short of if they're out on a call, we don't have a backup medic, but they don't go out to the hospital on every call. They only go when they're needed because we don't want them leaving the community. Just like the fire boat, there was a question on paramedic, should that go? You're here to protect this community. I'm not worried about a fire in Noyak. That's somebody else's issue, and the paramedic truly is, an improvement 100-fold over what we could provide as volunteers. So it's just a matter of financing it.
There are fire departments on the North Fork that are hiring Bs as well as the paramedics. So they're paying 2 or 3 people, and they're not, it's like us, they're not rich districts.
Right.
But they're paying 2 Bs because from 9 to 5, everybody's working. So I think with Matatuck, they hired 2 EMT to supplement the medic. So we're not there, but
It's a little bit of difference so everybody understands too. Stony Brook provides the paramedic program on the North Fork now 24/7 free because they feel it touches many communities, it touches a good call volume, and those people over there are predominantly transported to their hospital. It's all business.
Yeah.
The paramedic program that's free over there is like, it's been explained to me, it's a mobile billboard. They want you to see Stony Brook, Stony Brook, Stony Brook. So when you get sick, where do you want to go? Stony Brook.
But we take them to Stony Brook.
Yeah, we do, because
Where else do we
logistically they're here, but there are options. There are, the Northwell corporate system is a huge hospital system. And
That's Riverhead, right?
Yeah.
But we would never go to Riverhead.
we don't, there's no more never.
And Southampton is also.
We go to the most appropriate at the time.
Yeah, so maybe we can negotiate with them.
Yep.
Jackie, in the,
I tried.
Jackie, in the future, should the town be involved in negotiations with you? Or do you
There really is no negotiations, but most certainly if somebody wants to do that, I reached out to Stony Brook and said, everything's working well. We want to do it again next year. They said, it's going to cost this. You don't like it?
Well, isn't Robert Holman on the board?
So Dr. Holman is connected somehow. I gave him the information. He was going to see about negotiating from the corporate level something, because my argument is, why don't we as a community get something? Well, we are. They pay for half. Stony Brook is paying for half of the daytime coverage. They've acknowledged that much. So originally it was 117.5. It's a little bit more now because the half day, the day rate is 287. So we're paying 143.7, as is Stony Brook for the daytime. They don't feel that they wanted to participate in the night. So we pay full freight.
Participating in the night, but I didn't realize they weren't paying, nobody's contributing on the North Fork.
No,
I would.
that was my argument to get us half.
Yeah.
They originally said, we don't want it, we're not gonna do you for free because you don't have the call volume, you don't have
The
the.
reality is, we go to Southampton and Stony Brook, Southampton, we go to Greenport, it's Greenport, Southampton.
Correct.
Stony Brook.
Right.
So we go
Yep.
to Stony Brook.
Yep. The 3 main people, Carol Gomes, who is the chairman of the board, and then there's the finance person whose name is escaping me. We've had, don't forget Jim Preston from the foundation here sits on the ELI board, and that directly interacts with the corporate board at Stony Brook. So we've had many dialogues about money, and they don't really care.
I mean, we're between a rock and a hard place. We
Yeah,
need them more than
and they know it.
us. Yeah.
If you don't like it,
Except that we can use Northwell as a,
Yeah, for the proposal I gave you, I did reach out to Northwell and asked them to give me a price for 24/7. And they said, basically, you can't afford us.
Right.
If that's what you're paying with Stunner, because this is nothing secret. If that's what you're paying with Stunner, we can't do that. They were talking probably something in the 700
Right.
number.
Especially because they're not going to get the patients.
Exactly.
Right. Their interest is not there as much. But, yeah, no, we do.
This is the reality. It'd be nice if we can get more from them.
Yep. That would come from some kind of political pressure or pressure at their board. Apparently Carol Gomes, who is the president and CEO, calls the shots. She's the final straw on these decisions. And Jim has had conversations with her. We've tried to appeal to her. And the best we can do is we'll give you we'll pay half of the day rate for next year, but we're not paying the night.
Right. And we had this discussion today, because Jim had mentioned, the donation line was very low. And I said, because that's what I said, no. The EMS has their own foundation that people contribute. And, we're very aware that the people on Shelter Island are very generous in their donations. So, we don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth. I was just wondering if, Ms. Shamik, Sylvester Manor, the Historical Society, all have heavy hitters that they go to. Do we have anybody like that, we go to for the ambulance, or just go?
So I can't speak on behalf of the foundation. What I can tell you is that the foundation usually gives us, Amber probably knows the numbers better than me, but between $70,000 and $100,000 at the end of the year. As a 501c3, they have to dump their money, and that goes into our capital, which buys a new ambulance. This town has never bought an ambulance.
Right.
It's been paid by donation. So when you look at the budget, if we had to run this as a business and fund all these things, we're to pay for one piece of it, the paramedic, we're still, I think, doing okay.
Right.
We used to have, at the Red Cross, go out to the heavy hitters. We had a little committee that used to go out. First, and we got quite a bit of money.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I don't know how that
but
works.
we don't want that to coincide with the foundation.
No, exactly. Yeah.
That would be taking away.
Sure.
It's the same concept of charging, like
Yes.
back billing for service. We know we can get insurance money.
Right.
But we've had many discussions that the foundation feels that would influence their donation base. So we probably would lose more than we're going to get out of the insurance, because we get a sizable amount from the foundation that redirects.
Yes.
I would say it's at least 100,000 a year.
Yep.
Let's say last year it was 70, I believe they gave you in one check at the end of the year, and they paid for a $30,000 piece of equipment, and then there was another reimbursement in another line item for 10 to 20,000. So that's sizable money that could be impacted
We
by.
actually proposed that in one budget year was, let's look into charging, just people that had insurance for the ambulance runs. The foundation said it would cost more in the long run than we get for loss of donations.
Yeah, but you can't pick and choose.
Right.
Yeah,
You can't say, you have insurance, you're getting a bill. You don't have insurance, you have to bill the people without insurance, and just when they don't pay, you throw it away.
Or you have to, the way it was
write it off.
explained to me is you have to establish a fund that pays for those who can't pay, because you can't not collect from some and collect from others. So you'd have to have a fund, like a slush fund for the uninsured, if you will, that's what would pay those runs. But it's the same donation money,
And then you need
Circling.
people handling those
Yes,
accounts.
you have to have
which costs money.
Right.
They get, I don't know if you get, it's 20%, or I don't know what they get to do. The process,
The administration of it.
yeah, is huge. We estimate, when I did the numbers, I believe it was for last year's budget, I was looking at possibly about 20 grand we could get back after we paid for the fees and all that, and the foundation said, we're gonna lose fivefold in donations from that. Because people are gonna say, well, you get insurance money, why are we giving you money now? So I get it. So it didn't sound like the avenue.
Right.
Okay. Thank you, Jack. Old business, did we have a meeting after the EMS dinner, awards dinner? I don't think so.
Yeah, we talked about the awards dinner, yeah, that you did a great job.
Yep, it's in the minutes.
Oh, okay. I didn't mention that. Well, anyway, I saw Jack from the Fridwin, what was it, the week before Labor Day, and he was kind enough to give 10 tickets to the barbecue. So I passed them on to Jack, so Jack was gonna disperse them, so that was nice for the Wednesday night
Yeah,
barbecue.
that's nice,
paid for.
yeah.
Any new business?
May I ask Mark, so Mark, in the discussion with the chiefs, I think that the Yaphank Academy, I don't know if they recommend or they suggest, but whenever a hose line is dropped, the ambulance is dispatched according to their protocols, I think. So is there any possibility of a discussion about that? That whenever a hose line is dropped, the ambulance is dispatched?
We talked about that as a group, that was part of our long meeting. I've been asking them for years, the commissioners, the chiefs, if, as soon as you charge a hose,
Right.
we should be called.
And they said?
Yeah, they were looking at that.
Moving forward.
That and
that's
anybody
what-
packed up. If anybody's wearing a pack, you're now involved in an operation that could tax your physically and medically. So that was like a good thing. Anything, like you say,
That was
charged
part of our
line
discussion.
or a pack were kind of like the,
Yeah. So that was part of our discussion, and they agreed to that, and that's part of the app we get now, so,
So that'll happen. If the line is charged, the ambulance rolls.
yes, absolutely. That's the plan,
That answers my question.
for the future.
that's the plan.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. Nothing's instant.
not 10 years.
No, I'm thinking like in the next month I'll have it polished up for the fire chiefs to review.
Like I said, I've been working with all three of them, and we're all on the same page with things like that. For whatever reason, it wasn't, now it is.
You could what if, Father, this is a good analogy for you. You could what if these to the end. And this was another what if that we had, which was a good conversation. So we have a medevac, bring a patient to the landing zone. The county requires that the fire department stand by in case there's a crash. Well, why wouldn't you have an ambulance? Our ambulance is already being used for the patient. So what we've thought about in the future is we'll dispatch a second ambulance to stand by with the fire department in case something happens.
Wow.
Because we're already occupied.
Right.
You know, we don't treat really more than one patient. It's obviously a critical patient. That's why we're doing a medevac. So that was brought up by them. Like that was a good observation that we didn't really think of.
Mark, on your app, and you see people are going, is it live? Like you say, oh, there's Peter going down Monantic Road, like moving?
No, it's responding, not responding, responding to the scene, responding to the barn, unavailable, things like that.
But it's not like you can see, oh, he just made a left
No,
on.
no.
Okay.
We don't track anybody.
The bottom of the app,
Jeez.
yeah, the bottom of the app has options.
You're like, hurry up, why you stopped at that stop sign?
That's what the radio's for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, if nothing else, make a motion to close the meeting at 5:25. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Coco.